So General, you've got a book coming out.
I do.
Radical Inclusion. Tell us a little bit about your book and the thematic of the book and what we can learn from it.
Well, I wanted to write a leadership book, but I didn't want it to be just about military leadership because that would make me feel better, but I'm not sure it would have the impact that I wanted it to have. So I reached out to an individual who I'd known at Berkeley. But he brought with him a wonderful feel, really, for leadership in the business sector, and I brought a feel for leadership in national security. For all the reasons I mentioned in my prepared remarks about how do you establish a sense of belonging with a team in order to solve these really complex, fast-moving problems, we think the answer is you have to have a real instinct for radical inclusion. You have to think about inclusion in a much more aggressive fashion than just, well, we'd really like a few partners to throw a few dollars on the table.
Can you give us what it's like a day in the life of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff?
There's two responsibilities the chairman has. He has to give advice to the SecDef, the president, the National Security Council, and the Congress of the United States. And now we consult with the Congress, we give advice to the executive branch. The other side of it is you are the steward of the profession. The chairman's kind of a referee because you got the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and in fact the Coast Guard competing for resources. And when the competition can't be resolved by them, it comes to the chairman. And so, you know, there was a lot of that every day too.
And being an Army man, you were able to play that fairly?
Yeah, truthfully, I think that the chairman generally does less for his own service than he does for the others because he doesn't want to have a reputation for being parochial. So I probably erred on the side of the other services, which is fine. I mean, we should do that.
What is the future of ISIS? Are they an al-Qaeda that will work through a disparate group of places, or are we going to see them try to obtain territory again?
Well, I mentioned that ISIS is now kind of a meme. It's an idea that spreads mostly through social media, and by the way, and can radicalize people inside of what are otherwise stable borders like our own. I mean, while we're sitting here, there's a ideology being passed across in cyberspace that people who become desperate or disenfranchised can become, can be seduced by it. The Middle East all of the countries in the Middle East are destabilized in some way or another. Syria is the worst, but the institutions that hold a nation together, whether it's their governance, whether it's their ministries and cabinets, whether it's their education system, it's that which produces oil and revenue, and all of those systems are fragile and in some cases broken. So this is a case where the military is really not the answer.
What's your view of the national debt and its impact on national security?
Debt is good to a point, meaning it's not all that bad that China holds a bunch of our debt because they'd probably be less likely to try to bring us down because they're actually bringing themselves down. So that's a good thing. I just don't know where the balance point is. I don't. But I do know what this administration, the path they're pursuing, and hopefully there will be a good, zesty debate about how risky that is before it gets really risky.